Hello again, welcome back. You're watching the ITV News channel. Now, there's been a huge explosion near Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire. It happened at Buncefield oil depot just after 6 o'clock this morning. These dramatic pictures give some indication of the extent of the explosion. The force of the blast, which was heard up to 40 miles away, sent flames shooting 200 feet into the night sky. To give to us, but instead we're joined by Duncan Milligan. He's on the line. Duncan, where are you?
I'm in Hemel Hempstead. I'm a local resident and also the press officer for the Fire Brigades Union.
Well, you're a very good person to speak to then under those circumstances. We've heard from your local MP himself, a former firefighter, that the fire brigades believe that they can control this fire, even though there's potentially 60 million gallons worth of fuel there.
Yes, they will at some point bring it under control. It's not under control yet. What would have happened is that they would have made the incident a major incident very quickly. It's known in the jargon as a gold command incident. They would have sent the first resources from the Hertfordshire Fire Service, whole-time and retained firefighters, part-time firefighters. They will then have called on brigades in the surrounding areas. But with this type of fire, you can't pour water on an oil fire. You need a very specialist type of foam. Now, what they're probably going to be using is what's called aqueous film forming foam, AFFF, as it's known in the fire service. They may not have all the stocks that they need available locally, and what would typically happen is that a local emergency fire control that will be coordinating all the work will have been calling on additional foam tenders from around the Hertfordshire area, and it wouldn't surprise me if over the next couple of days we would see resources of foam tenders brought in from across the UK.
Is this specialist work, Duncan, or is this something that the local fire brigade can do themselves?
No, the local fire brigade will have carefully prepared for that. It will have, the oil depot would have been known as a local area of serious and major risk because of the potential for what's happened this morning. They will have trained, they will have some immediate resources that they can use. They will call on, and this is a typical response, they will start calling on brigades nearby to start coming and help them with with personnel and with other additional specialist equipment, such as the additional foam tenders that they are certainly going to need.
Now, you and the police have been evacuating nearby homes. Are you at all worried? Because the local MP told us, Mike Penning told us, that so far the buildings that have gone up in flames are commercial buildings in the industrial park in which all this is situated, and that they haven't spread to nearby houses. Are you worried that this fire could spread to people's homes? Well,
that would be part of the reason why they would be evacuating. Because there isn't any point taking the risk that the fire does spread, or that there's an additional explosion or explosions which can cause damage to people. It's a fail-safe measure basically to push people out, and it's a typical measure that you would take in these circumstances. I'm sure Mike Penning, who was a firefighter in Essex, will know the procedures for doing that.
Now, 36 casualties, 4 people seriously injured so far. Do you know what the injuries are? Presumably people inhaling this very nasty-looking smoke that we're looking at must account for some of them.
Well, I don't know the precise nature of the injuries, but obviously an incident like this, typically you'd be looking at those who are in the immediate vicinity, with burns injuries and blast injuries, and anyone who was nearby, who was on the other side of a glass window, may also have had sort of more sort of minor but quite significant to aim injuries.
All right, many thanks indeed for that.
Well, we can actually join Annabelle Archer on the phone now. Hello again, Annabelle.
Hi there.
Hi, can you give us an idea about the extent of the damage to the surrounding area now as it becomes apparent and as the daylight is here?
Yes, well, I've been at an extraordinary vantage point for the past 3 hours now, just 5 miles north at a place called Jockey End. And just to let you know what I can see from here, perhaps, as the sun has come up, it's actually created a very hazy effect, but still billows of smoke coming up into the sky, and we can still see flames from here as well. So extraordinary scenes. I understand that from the police that damage is at the moment just on the commercial property on the industrial estate nearby, but there must be concerns that will spread to possibly spread to residential areas.
We have been told by a number of eyewitnesses that homes have been damaged. They've been reporting seeing cars sort of shunted into garages, doors blown off, windows blown out, even indeed ceilings falling down. Is that something which you've been aware of from where you are?
From where I am now, we're perhaps too far away for that. But when I got here at 6:45 this morning, residents had come out to the field where I'm standing at the moment, and everyone was just mouths open agog looking at the view that we can see. But yes, as you say, I understand that windows have been shattered and front doors of houses damaged. But everyone here at Jockey End in this particular area seems to be all right.
What about the smoke? That is something which you can see, I understand, very clearly from where you are, from your vantage point. That really goes in a huge plume up into the air, doesn't it? How big an area do you think does that cover? Can you make any kind of estimate?
Well, it must be a huge area, because from what I can see, just 1,000 feet plus this smoke billowing into the sky, and flames must be 300 feet. So I imagine that the area is very wide, and that containment is the first concern for the emergency services.
And how is that smoke beginning to affect people? Because obviously at the moment that smoke is high up in the stratosphere, high up in the atmosphere, but at some point that is going to descend, isn't it? And that must be one of the more alarming prospects facing the emergency services and the local population.
Yeah, absolutely. The local residents who I've been talking to and been with this morning, that's what they were talking about, how the smoke will descend. I imagine it's worse for people who are a lot nearer. But I understand police are advising people to stay indoors and keep their windows and doors shut for the time being.
The force of the blast, we've been told, could be heard up to 40 miles away. It could be heard in central London. The flames, we also understand, shot more than 200 feet into the sky, and those flames are, of course, still burning furiously. Also being reported that the blasts were heard in Berkshire and in Surrey. You obviously heard that huge blast, the initial first blast, and the two subsequent ones this morning. How did you react?
Well, I was awoken, like many others, to a huge, very loud, prolonged thud, which not something you would expect to be hearing early on a Sunday morning. And my first reaction, honestly, was that there'd been a minor earthquake. Our house literally shook, so a very, very loud noise, which must have been very distressing for a lot of people, especially the people nearer the explosion.
So how worried are people where you are now that it's becoming apparent exactly what the situation is, and that it is going to be possible, one presumes, to contain it somehow? How are people reacting now?
I think that people have sort of started to leave our vantage point, and people are a little calmer. The horse riders have actually been out sort of around the field that I am. So I think that calm is beginning to settle in now, I think. But for the people near, and especially those who've been evacuated, the near future must be very uncertain and quite scary.
OK, Annabelle, thank you very much. Annabelle Archer once again speaking to us there from just a few miles away from that blast.
Well, people living close to the site spoke of being woken up by the noise of the explosion.
I was in bed at 6 o'clock, and then I heard this mighty bang, and then the door fell off in my bedroom. The house shook. The windows in my mum's bedroom got blown out. The downstairs patio door got blown out, and everyone just woke up and was outside the street trying to find what happened. Obviously, the big fire, which is just literally a 5-minute walk from my house.
I was awoken at about 5 to 6 this morning, thinking that it was another recurrence of an earthquake that happened about 3 years ago, a little rumble, and in the background just heard shattering windows and car alarms and stuff such like going off. I came downstairs and found my front door here lying on the stairs, completely blown off its hinges.
Just after 6 this morning, a massive bang. Opened my eyes, basically saw the curtains blow up into the air, massive light. Obviously shot out of bed, looked out the window and just saw what looked like flames, but I couldn't quite see where they were. Just looked up, put the light on, just glass absolutely everywhere, all over the whole room. Came downstairs, struggled to get the front door open because the impact had sort of jolted the door, and then saw the sheer devastation of actually looking at the front of the house. Obviously it was still pitch black, so you couldn't see everything, and it was just a nightmare really, walking out here and seeing everyone out here just trying to see what actual damage there is to the houses.
Well, Colin Hobdy, a resident in the Hemel area, was about half a mile from the fire when he took this video of the flames and plumes of smoke shortly after the explosion. Earlier, he described what he saw.
I saw the flames from my bedroom window, grabbed some clothes and went down to where you could see I was standing with the image. And there was already one police unit on scene. There wasn't much response happening yet, as you can imagine, because it's very early in the morning on a Sunday. And,
what did you think initially had happened?
Being a local lad, I guessed it was that sort of direction of the oil depot. And people were panicking, suggesting planes, but I didn't believe in that. You know, it does appear like myself, I thought it to be an accident at the depot.
What did you hear from the police? Were they quickly in the surrounding area telling people what to do, telling people they had to leave?
Well, they were starting to set up outer cordons at that point where I was standing. Where I was standing was in Hemel, which is Swallowdale Lane, junction with 3 Cherry Cheese Lane. And it was just starting to get together about 20 past 6. As you can imagine, it's as with all incidents, it takes a bit of time for a response to occur.
You say that you're a local lad, you've lived there for quite some time, I assume. What do you know about the Buncefield oil depot? How large is it?
Yeah, as it's described already, it's a very large depot. It does serve a large part of the southeast area, including the airports.
Well, yet another eyewitness report. It's an extraordinary scene here. The fire has now been burning for what? It's coming up now for 5 hours that this fire has been going ahead. There were all sorts of initial reports. You'll remember that initially somebody said they thought they'd seen a plane flying into this oil depot. That was quickly discounted by the police to the relief of all of us, of course. The police now saying that this absolutely is just an accident, but it's an extraordinary fire. 60 million gallons of fuel are held there. It's a big depot. This is a depot that serves both Luton Airport and also Heathrow Airport. It's operated by Total. It's part owned by Texaco. It stores a mixture, if you're wondering what you're watching burning, this is what a mixture of oil, petrol and kerosene looks like when it goes on fire. The depot also is used by BP, Shell and British Pipeline. Lots of claims and counterclaims. At one point we were being told that as many as 60 million gallons of fuel could be on fire, but some of the fuel experts that we've been speaking to say that this depot, although it contains all that gasoline, it contains the gasoline in separate sealed tanks. So though one tank might go on fire, other tanks are self-contained and might not. But of course it's an ongoing fear that all of them could go up if they're not quite as self-contained as the experts